1:30. I'm going to go ahead and call to order the Rockdale Planning and Zoning meeting for Tuesday, December the 5th, 2023. Could I have a roll call, please?
Chair Williams,
Here.
Commissioner Jay Williams,
Here.
Commissioner Davidson,
Present.
Commissioner Miles,
Here.
Commissioner Ratliff,
Present.
Commissioner Barcheck,
Here.
and our council liaison, Starnes.
We have a quorum. Do we have any citizens' communications?
Yes.
Nope.
Yes, no. All right. Action items. Action item A is 3 separate minutes. We're going to review and approve the minutes from October 3rd, October 17th, and November 21st. Let's start with October the 3rd.
I make a motion that we approve the minutes as written up.
I'll second it.
Motion made and seconded that we approve the minutes from October the 3rd. All those in favor, right hand. Motion made, seconded, and carries. All right, October 17th minutes.
I make a motion we approve and accept the minutes for October 17th.
I said,
Motion made and seconded that we approve the minutes as presented for October the 17th. All those in favor, right hand. Motion made, seconded, and carries. Let's review November 21st minutes.
I make the motion that we approve the minutes as written.
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded that we approve the minutes from the meeting of November 21st, 2023. All those in favor, right hand. Motion made, seconded, and carries. All 3 minutes are approved, ma'am. Action item B, received a monthly code enforcement report, which is probably the last report of this year. No, it's the first report of this year. Where are we at, Ben?
First report, I'll tell you about it.
Step up, Ben.
All right, so this is the first report that you guys are seeing, but it's the second month of our fiscal year now. So the first page is going to look the same that you're used to. It's just the new numbers for our new fiscal year. You guys asked for me to add a second sheet to keep the running total, so that way you know what code enforcement's been up to past and present. So those are all of your numbers. So if you got any questions about any of the numbers or any properties that you want to ask about, now would be the time.
Okay, where are we at on doing the no parking in grass? Is that finally complete?
It
And
is.
It is an ordinance?
It is, but council asked for there to be a year-long education period.
Okay, what are we doing on that as far as education-wise?
I
what are
know we're eventually going to run an ad in the newspaper and hit the radio stations. There's been different discussions about different items. We haven't settled on one, but I mean, we'll do our normal through
Has
all
there
of our
been
notifications.
any talk with where we can add anything to where people need to trim their limbs back to as well?
We could look
You
into
know,
that.
because there's so many limbs overhanging. I mean, we had one truck come up for delivery up in our neighborhood, and I mean, there was limbs laying in the road because he couldn't even weave through because they're so low.
Okay.
That's
Been like
already
14 feet already.
Yeah, 14 feet from the curb up, 14 feet all the way across.
He means
It's
like an
coming off of your-
education portion.
Oh, and I did, so with that ordinance, one person asked me about it, and they said that's, once it crosses my property, I'm not responsible for it. If that tree comes from their property, they're responsible for it, correct? Even if it's in the
Yeah.
right-of-way of the city or to the curb?
The property owner is responsible in our ordinances to the curbing or to the middle of the pavement if there is no curbing.
Okay,
So that's how they have to maintain their alleys, they have to maintain, because it's unlikely, highly unlikely that the city planted any of those trees.
oh, exactly. But that, I'm,
And regarding your court cases, especially 21 to 24 numbers, explain that to me.
So from a code enforcement perspective, once something goes into court, There's not much authority I have anymore over that case other than informing the court what's going on. So any, deals that they may make of where you have a certain amount of time to clean this up or you'll see a fine, completely up to the judge. And so I've been working with the new judge on what the past judge has done, if he's going to honor any of that or if they're going to start new. So we're getting more people in. So I'm hoping this number will start coming down because we have some that have been in there for quite some time.
That's what I'm worried about. I see if we're going back to 21, we still have 3% or 2%, whatever it is, still in.
Yeah, I mean that's from 21 to 24. I don't think we have any court complaints from 21, but I know we have some from 22. It just depends what the court's doing, and then I know that some of them they're going to district court, so that takes time. So it's just all you're gonna see from my report is that they're in court. As far as update wise, it would be a court question.
Is there anything we need to look at ordinance wise as far as adding teeth or anything?
The court has it. One of the benefits of starting with somebody new is being able to explain it fresh. For example, in our computing system, it has some of the fines as $400, when the state actually says it's $2,000 per day for every day that violation is open. So it's a fresh opportunity to be able to say, we don't need to fine them $400 for a continuing violation of trash. We can actually go with more if it's somebody that's a frequent flyer.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering, like, the ones that are keep repeating, the high grass, but I mean, I know once they mow it, then the fine or the violation goes away, but hell, the next month it's the same way. I mean, it just seems like we need to put something in place where if they keep on, the repetitive offenders or violators, and just do something.
Yeah. And one of the things to be aware of is one of our frequent flyers over on Travis, on the east side of Travis at 79, that property was purchased by the MDD. And so expect to see that get scraped to the ground pretty quickly.
Jeff Nowak's doing that?
He'll probably do the scraping, but that was Neil's Berry's property.
So speaking of that, then, it took in the front building, did it
Yes.
take in the back?
Yes.
Did the purchase take in the back house as well?
Yes.
Okay, so all that'll be cleaned off and started as new? And do we know any plans for that?
No, there are
And
no
it was
plans
purchased
for
by
it.
MDD, correct?
It's purchased by MDD for future economic development.
Question, clarification. So you said the owner is responsible for the trees hanging over the street, not the city?
Correct.
Okay.
But if you need help, if it's over 14 feet, the city does go out and help with that.
Yeah, they're out. I mean, there's a lot of
Okay.
trimming going on right now up and down those roads. I just come past them, all in Murray and a lot going
Because
on.
particularly if it's a busy road, we're not gonna ask an owner to get out there and do it. So we'll hire it or do something.
Where are we at on our tire ordinance with the tire stores? How has that come along for this year?
I mean, that's passed.
Yeah.
What I'm waiting on is our attorney to draft a court complaint for the ones that have not complied. Because we have some properties that are definitely going to fight it, and so it just needs to be strong wording. And I wasn't necessarily, not that I wasn't comfortable doing it, it's just better to get an attorney to do it, especially if you know they're going to fight it. And so that's what I've been waiting on. I think we've gotten about 50% compliance on that. Half the tire stores have complied, half haven't.
Regarding the report, are there any other questions? Thank you, Ben. Action item C, consider to take any necessary action on our recommendation to the city council regarding a preliminary plat submitted by DF Enterprises LLC for property known as property ID 24382, Milam County, Texas, into 12 lots. I have some questions, but go ahead.
So we will give you the quick rundown, so that way, if you want to speak, you can. DF Enterprises submitted this plat, and we reviewed that on 9/11 for code compliance. We sent comments back, and that should be attached in your packet, what the original comments were. answers were received, and there's 2 items that you need to be aware of. The first is there are a couple lots, I think it's 6 and 7 and 10 and 11, if I remember right.
They're
that are
down at the bottom.
flag lots.
Mm-hmm.
And so they have a very small lot width that goes on Cypress Trail Loop, which doesn't meet city code. They're protecting that through a joint access easement for both lots, so that way they can drive all the way back to their back lot and get to their house, which would then expand to the acre lot. Each lot's over an acre, so it's gonna have septic. They'll have Southwest Water Milam, which is your second variance request.
Let's stop where you're at on this first one. Let's deal with this.
Okay.
Now, under a joint agreement, who maintains that? Explain how this is gonna work theoretically.
So what they're proposing is they will,
Can I ask a question real quick? So you're looking at, as far as the ones that, are you looking at lot 5 that is on
Right? on-
It's-
the
It'll
loop?
be for
Or
these
is it
two.
lot 6?
And these two have a shared access easement that go down here.
Which one is the small one?
so
That-
lot 6 and 7 are both flag lots that are
So
gonna,
these two and these two.
and then 10 and 11 are your other 2 flag
And
lots.
that's the flag coming down, and that's the flag coming down.
But you said one of them was a smaller,
They all
60.
are.
Or they all?
Both,
have been-
all 4 of those lots are known as flag lots because they have a skinnier portion that connects
yes.
to the road. And in that portion, they're dedicating a joint access easement that would be a separate document filed with the plat that would remain permanent for their access.
Correct, but what,
Okay, dedicating by the
You
plat.
have to go to the microphone to speak so that we can get you recorded.
So-
But hang on.
so the first question, but the one question I had was though, there's not an issue with it being too small, widthwise across Spring, Loop, Cypress Loop.
There is to the
It,
code.
yeah.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. So is it the one that's on the loop right there, or is it the back one that's too small?
It's
Or they're
this-
all too small?
These two, plus these two, both have access points that make their lots too narrow.
Okay.
According to city
Okay.
code.
Doesn't that mean that the ones below it would be
Well,
too
that's what I'm
narrow?
trying to figure out. I can't
No,
hardly
these are
read
fine,
this.
cause they direct, this has frontage of this far.
What's that frontage right there? How many feet is that? Right there. Is that what? I can't see it
I
on
can't
this
read
map,
that
this
either.
thing.
Blind.
Yeah, it's kind of tough to read. I don't have that number on the top of my head. But when we were reviewing it, those were the only 4 lots that weren't wide enough by code.
Okay, so those ones down facing
Are wide enough.
are wide enough.
The
And they
issue
front the
is
road.
The four lots to the top are technically landlocked. There's no access to those. If you don't have the flag, if you don't have the,
Of course.
okay. Then the issue becomes who maintains that? If it's gonna be a driveway, technically, right?
Okay, so, yes,
I know we're
These
calling
are
it
all-
access, but technically it's gonna be a driveway, right? I mean,
right. So these are about 135 feet wide.
135.
So these are about 135 feet apiece.
Each? Okay,
Yeah.
okay, that's what I wanted to know.
And so we require 70 or 80 feet in width.
70.
Okay, we require 70 feet in width minimum, and so at the street. So these two, which is these, come down to something less than 70 feet. So these 2 lots don't comply, and these 2 lots don't comply.
Because of their narrowness at the street.
Okay, yeah,
Correct.
I got you. The access.
So do we know what they are? Can you read what they are? I can't read it.
I can take a picture.
You know go ahead, come to the podium.
Hey, good afternoon. Nick McIntyre. I'm the engineer for the project. So each one of the flags are 25 feet wide. So combined, it's a 50-foot strip that comes down. So the joint use access easement that's going to be dedicated by plat, so it's there when the plat gets approved, it can't ever be removed,
Right.
is 50 feet wide.
The whole-
So the 2 lots in the back will share a 50-foot wide strip that a driveway will go down and be maintained by the landowners.
Okay, so Joe Bob's truck done broke down in the middle of that. Fannie Mae calls out the police department because he's blocking the driveway. How does this issue resolve?
They would have to go around the truck if it can't be moved. It's between the two landowners, so the legal ownership of those lots is dedicated with the plat.
Is it 25 and 25, or is it 50 just once and 50 over here?
It's 25 each, so each lot
Okay.
owns 25 feet, and then we're putting a joint use access easement over both those 25-foot strips, so that shared use, so a shared use of 50 feet wide to the back. So essentially what we're doing is reserving that flag so it can't be used for anything else. A structure can't be built there, nothing can impede it. It's intended for access to the back at all times.
Do you know if it will be completely open on the 50-foot, or will it have a fencing down the middle and be 25, or will it stay completely open?
Completely open. Yeah, that's what the joint use access easement does.
Is this common practice?
This is done, yeah, a number of other places.
I've seen that, I mean, probably around here.
Yeah, well, they just did it out on 908 South, right there at the county line, the 20-acre tracts. They gave it, I call it an easement, but
Yeah.
they had, that's where their Southwest Milam water runs, and that's their access to that back part, just like this.
In Williamson County, where I'm from, flag lots are permissible at 25 feet wide, so similar to this setup. The other issue that we were dealing with was the driveways along Cypress Trail Loop and the spacing. So by combining them into one, we were able to meet that separation distance between driveways.
So where is the creek at? Okay, so you're down here and around here, that's the Slimmer Pond back there. So where is that creek that goes through there? Is that driveway, wasn't there a creek back there on that corner, on that bottom far
There's
right?
There's a pond here on the neighbor's
Yeah.
property,
Yeah.
so
I
maybe
think
there's
a
some
creek right
drainage
in there.
that
Okay.
cuts across here.
Got it.
Yeah.
'Cause there's
It's
a-
not real defined out in
Yeah.
the field.
Y'all said electrical or something right in there.
Yeah, along the front of Cypress Trail. Right.
Regarding the flag lots, do we have any other questions about the flag lots? That's variance one. Variance number two now, or issue, excuse me, not that was, yeah. Back to Ben.
The second variance request, they're getting Southwest Milam Water because they're in their CCN. So they're the water provider for that area. The only issue with that is they don't offer fire suppression. And so the variance letter that they attached was for flag lots and fire suppression because that is a requirement for a preliminary plat.
So I called Southwest and talked to them, and they don't provide it whenever you're putting a subdivision in. They can provide it if it's requested and a study's done, and they can provide it. So there's a little technicality in there. Did you want to address that?
I mean, other than what Ben says, other than what Ben says, our conversation with Southwest Milam was they, as you stated, and you have discovered, they certainly can in some areas. They said in this system, they can't provide fire unless we went miles back upstream and upgraded their entire system, which at that point, it's unfeasible to do the development.
Can I ask, just as in FY, what was done out of town as far as in, maybe they didn't have to have it, like, when some of these other new subdivisions were done, the plats were done? Apache Pass, or I don't know, it's not called Apache Pass, you know what I'm talking about?
Oh,
They not
That's
have-
county, that meets county standards, which is different than
I
our,
mean, they didn't have to have this fire, I understand that.
Talking
they
about
did-
like the Gabriel's Crossing
yeah.
up there?
Or,
area, Or,
They have fire hydrants out there, and it's with Southwest Milam.
well, they have that
So-
holding tanks right there too.
Just for the engineer's purpose, I have a concern on this issue. That was typically rural resencial or agricultural rural residential. There were initially big lots, and most of them were freestanding, self-sufficient, so they built stock tanks. And we on the fire department, if we needed water, we could draft off stock tanks or what have you. Now you're turning it more into a little bit higher density residential setting. And the problem I have is if the train is blocking the railroad tracks, If you've got a lot of houses and you don't have water, we have a problem. That's my concern. And I know,
Sure, no, I understand that.
There is, I don't know, I talked to their field superintendent with Southwest Milam. There is a 12-inch main on this development side of the railroad tracks. And they can be fire hydrants put in. I don't know who you talked to, but this man, he knows where every line is, and there's 12 inches that comes across that railroad track that goes down back to the west and around up. It's there. So if they're telling you it's not there in the office,
Sure.
Well,
somebody's got their wires crossed.
So just what I know of it, and I'm just gonna say, I actually sold this tract of land, by the way. So I
Okay.
know a little bit about it. The main line, so if you go through the loop and you go straight up to the top where you're coming in, that's where the main line is. That's where the main hydrant or main hookup is, at the very top up here. Because we actually was gonna see what it took to bring it down, okay? So the main is up here at the turn at this first corner up here.
you just said something that triggered a
and
memory.
this-
I thought there was a fire hydrant up there close to that mobile home years
That's what I
ago.
mean, this mobile, there
Way
is,
up where it makes a corner. you
yes,
go
on the
up.
deep corner, there is something there, that's where your main is. This particular tract here, was never under agriculture exemption. So
No, well, I mean,
I know, but I'm
when
just,
it was original, that neighborhood, most people, it were much bigger tracks than it's,
Yeah.
yeah.
yeah, but as you see, all these little tracks going around here and up here, and they all have either mobile homes or homes on them as well. So it's the one above that's not split up. Yes, that doesn't have a whole lot more on it, but all of these already have something on them as well. So, but it's not itself is not going backwards as far as from agriculture to commercial, whatever. They've always paid market value on this right here.
So what's the problem then? If
Yeah,
there's,
what is the problem?
to get the
I
water?
would say money is the issue. The money was, let me say this, with my people, money was the issue because they didn't. It was solid woods, by the way. It was not already improved or anything. It was solid woods.
They have
I
since.
haven't been out there lately.
Oh, they've
Yeah.
cleaned it,
But-
they,
But I'm just saying, when I sold it,
Yeah.
and so the issue was it was inherited and what have you, and so the issue of not the expense to come down from the top down. Now, as far as any other cost and fire hydrants and all that,
So we went through the process with Southwest Milam and did a utility evaluation, and they've got to study their system and be able to tell you that pressure that they can bring to it. So it sounds like it's not just that you can go tap into that 12-inch line today and they've got the pressure and the flow. It sounds like there's other improvements needed within the system to ensure that the pressure and flow are available in that 12-inch. So just tying an 8-inch line to that 12 today is not going to get you fire flow. It's going to get you domestic flow, which is what everybody else is on out there today.
right?
And that Southwest Milam needs bigger upgrades within their system to get full fire flow.
And a lot of these are on wells. You know, they're not, a lot of them are on wells. They have their own wells out here. That's what.
What our
they
fire
had them
marshal
till
has-
Alcoa started dropping the
No,
water
Alcoa-
table years ago, but
What
yeah.
our
Well,
fire
Alcoa
marshal has
drilled them new
asked
ones,
for
actually.
is that they install fire hydrants so that they can at least use it to fill. So that's what Judge Vaughn, who's our fire marshal, has requested on this.
He's requested what now?
That they put fire hydrants in that will be that will have a fill.
Now, where is that? Because the other deal, his letter, where he was requesting every 500 feet.
Yeah, well, that's, yeah, for a residential area. And so when I was talking to Judge Vaughn, they know that they can't pull with power, and so, and Southwest is aware that we know this, that we're aware that we jerk their lines out of the ground. So he's just saying he essentially wants 2 fill stations out there.
And I've seen that in other rural settings where instead of painting the fire hydrants red, There's a universal code. When they paint them black, the the fire department knows that it's less than fire flow capable, but they can extract some water out of it in emergency situations. So that could be what he's inferring.
It's more of a free flow, whatever the hydrant's providing.
Right,
They put it into a tanker truck and then they can pump.
Yeah.
exactly.
From the truck.
Right, right.
So is that a possibility? Is
So this letter here from.
Yes, sir.
Is not, that doesn't say that. It's saying he's requesting no further apart than 500 feet.
And a standard fire hydrant, but in our discussions, he understands that they can't just connect to it and start pulling water that would be under pressure, that they will use it as a fill station.
Yeah, I had read that and I, if I had just one place to fill from, would make me
Yeah.
Now, if the fire marshal's recommending two or whatever, but.
I think from what, it's hard not to call him Herbie, from what the judge said is that there already is a hydrant in this area. And so he was thinking that there would need to be one back in this area. It's either here or here that he said there was an existing hydrant in that area. And so it was either one or two that they would install that would be allowed to just be used as fill stations.
Do you know that to be true?
I'm not familiar with a fire hydrant being right there. I know there's a 2-inch line, I believe it's a 2-inch line that comes down Cypress Trail Loop, and it may be they installed one at the end as a pressure relief or a flushing valve or something of that nature. And then it could double as a fill station in the future. That could be. I'd have to research it and find out.
Any other questions regarding the issue?
I don't have any questions regarding this, but do we know if there's deed restrictions on this?
Yeah, it was in the,
Hang on to that one so he can sit down if,
Yeah,
are we
Is that it?
through with that, are we through with variance one and variance two?
oh, is that what you planning on putting fire hydrants in? Is that what's going on?
Well, that'll come as a recommendation from us to carry forward to city council.
right.
So if, and nowadays, I mean, we run into this all the time, that if I wanted to buy that, a section, lot 6 or whatever, and I don't, you know, I might be buying it just strictly to put a well on it, and we have them do it all the time, you know. But that doesn't mean that, I mean, once we get approval, I mean, I guess you can do whichever and have your choice, you know? But,
Run it by me again, you lost me a little bit there.
well, I mean,
What is your
not
concern?
everyone is going to be, I mean, we know what we know what we need, and like you say, you feel a little more comfortable with some kind of pull, you know, no matter if they're gonna use the water or
Again,
not,
the
no
only
matter if
reason
they're
I
gonna go
say that
somewhere.
is because of fire protection, and nowadays you can't get across the highway, and there's a law now, I guess, that it's okay to block crossings. It used to be if you were gonna have a train for more than 15 minutes, you know, they had to move, but nowadays, I get it from.
How long is it now?
I get people in Western Hills complaining all the time in this same neighborhood now.
It still wouldn't help us.
You know,
Still ain't got no way to get over there to fight the fire. I mean, just,
but if they're there, they have water is what I'm saying. If they can at least fill a tanker truck.
but I'm saying, how's the tanker truck gonna get over there if a train's blocking
Yeah.
it?
Yes,
Well,
there's a lot.
city council will buy a fire truck to All right,
right.
regarding variance number 2, or issue number 2 on water, any other questions? Your suggestions?
Question. About how much is it to put them fire hydrants in?
Just a water steady alone is,
Yeah, I mean, a fire hydrant, each one set, it's about $6,500 a piece.
But that doesn't include getting the water line, right? I mean, cause
That's
the water
just-
line isn't there. That's just
That's correct.
the hydrant itself.
That's correct.
How much is it to tie in? What they were talking about earlier.
Well, that's the thing, cause you gotta,
They did
we don't,
tie in.
wherever it is, you're gonna have to run however many 100 feet. Put your
Yeah.
hydrant and then another 100, 200 feet, another hydrant, or I don't know.
We've got a quote from Southwest Milam, because they would design it and install that water line so they meet all their specification regulations. And I believe the number was 56,000 and change.
That sounds
And that's what
about
the-
right for them.
It's what the owner would be paying for that water line to go in, so. And then adding fire hydrants to it would be on top of that,
$70,000.
correct?
And that's divided over the 12 lots. So that's just the cost of doing development.
5,000
And
a
they don't
lot.
have to do streets to the back lots. They're using existing city streets, so that really is their infrastructure cost, which when you break it out over the lots is not that big of a deal.
What are they using now? What are you saying? They're using streets already to what now?
They're using,
It's already-
they're using existing streets to access it. So this is an,
Oh, okay.
these are existing streets.
Okay.
And rather than having to put in a street back here, which is what you would normally have to do to,
Offset that
rather
cost.
than, yeah, so these are not substantial development costs for them to bear.
This is maintained, the Cypress Loop is maintained by county,
Yes.
and is there anything that has to go through county for that approval for that many entrances or for each entrance or anything like that?
The county would look at their access points, and then we'll ask the county, I think we already have, to sign off on the septic system. We've already talked to the health department, but other than that, no.
And all that got approved due to the size of these lots as well, right?
Correct.
Correct.
With the
Yeah,
county?
That's right.
Staff recommendation, please.
Well, staff recommends approval of the two variances. Everything else is pretty clean with it. We've talked with the county's okay with it. They'll get their signature block on there. And then it'll be held for recordation until utilities are put in and accepted by Southwest Milam.
It's just subject to getting the two fire hydrants in according to what the fire marshal would like to see.
I'm just trying to figure when I stand before them if I'm explaining all this right, but yeah. So we need I'll entertain a motion at this time.
I make a motion to approve with the fire hydrants and everything,
Very,
For the variances.
approve the variances.
I'll second that.
Motion made to approve the replat with the two variances noted. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion made, seconded, and carries.
now with the restrictions. What are they? We're not gonna get the same kind of quality houses that are out there now, are we? On the loop? I
Do you
mean,
have any idea? Are they gonna be deed
is there
restricted?
development, is it?
I haven't seen any deed restrictions come from the owner, but it's not part of the process, so I wouldn't normally see those anyway. But I can certainly reach out and ask him if he intends to
Well, it did,
record some.
So, I can tell you what I know a little bit. I don't know that it's cut and dried, but from this, it's in your packet, and that's all that is out there.
Richard Thrasher thingy?
That's
Yes.
the
yes.
It was all originally Thrasher property, and then it was, it did have
Gotta be
restrictions on
upgraded.
it. It did have deed restrictions on it. However, when you get down to the last, number 15, it's very touchy because of the time frame, and you see it says 30 years.
Back.
But if you look
Yeah,
back,
that's-
it's been past 30 years. So if they had a existing board and kept it up, you know, I don't know all that. But I do know that if, even if you're past the 30 years and then you keep it up, you know, I'm not sure what they've done out there as far as that goes. So, in other words, if they haven't and this has gone out, then there probably isn't any standing.
But
Now,
I mean-
whatever they might make,
Yeah,
this
that's-
company might make, who knows? I don't know.
Somebody help me out here. At that time when that was put in, wasn't the city limits?
Way back here, right across from my shop.
That's what I'm thinking. And since then, we've expanded out and it falls into our ETJ.
Yes.
So there's a little bit of change even on who monitors that out there, so.
So they gotta
Is
follow
this
the
whole
iron.
thing
Should.
in the ETJ?
Yes, it is.
This whole, so do you know where it stops and starts around here?
Not off my head, I'd have to go pull a map.
I can't remember myself.
Barbara, if I'm reading this right here on number 15, it says that if the majority of the track owners vote on certain restrictions,
Set a committee.
nope, keep reading. When it gets down there to 10 years, then it says a majority of the track votes otherwise such as actions to evidence by written instructions and signed by the majority of the track and track owners. So the majority of the people, if they go and, am I reading this right? To where if they want certain restrictions out there, they can band together and make
That's
sure.
always- That is
Well, it's
always
like
correct.
it's like any HOA. You have your board,
Yeah,
and yes, they can. However, you're working with something that's so old now and past this time. I don't know if they've done it.
these
or-
deed restrictions are stale.
It expired. It's
They've
over
expired.
years.
Yeah. So then what you'd be looking at is if the new developer wants to put them in, they have that option, but not the requirement.
But they still fall up under the city. No?
It's in the ETJ, city has no zoning authority, we have plat authority, and that is it. That's the extent of it.
So is it basically like Cornerstone?
Cornerstone's within the city limits, so
Okay.
we had a lot of authority over that. This, we have
And
very,
it will
very
have
limited.
HOA on it, right?
Yeah.
Cornerstone will.
We have very, very well, other than the division of the land, that is we will not do any inspections out there. So, once it goes to the council, it's over.
We won't have inspections where? Out here? Okay, I thought you was talking about
We will
corners.
not have inspections.
Do you have questions for us?
Nothing further from me.
Any comments you want to make?
Nothing more.
So,
Thank you.
Ben was like the greatest to work with.
It was. I tell you what, this process with the city has been fantastic. It's a breath of fresh air coming out here to work with you guys versus Williamson County, Georgetown, Leander, and everybody else we deal with these days.
Thank you, sir.
great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Those comments are taken. Thank you.
But, and I do have one question, and I don't think I know you said you didn't know if there was gonna be any deed restrictions?
I'm not aware of the owner imposing any.
So basically, he's just gonna sell it and let them do what they want. They can put up mobile home that's 30 years old or brand new or whatever
it's-
basically what they're wanting to do.
As far as I know, yeah, I think it's open. But I can certainly ask that question and get back to y'all.
I would just ask, not,
Yeah.
there's no requirement.
There's no requirement, you would, well, anyway.
Any further questions? Moving right along then.
Thank you.
Training, conduct training regarding the Supreme Court ruling on billboards. How long will this training session take?
All the APA training is 1 hour, so anybody who wants to come is welcome to come. So, one of the things that happened at the last state conference is I was, kind of voluntold that my new position with the state planning organization is I do all the training for planning and zoning commissions and elected officials across the state of Texas. So I am using y'all as a guinea pig for anything that you might want to see. But I think it's like what you saw the last time, is sometimes this is drinking out of a fire hose.
A lot of stuff.
So we will have this for anybody who wants to see it. Ben will be taking it since he's in planning and he has to learn that. But if anybody else wants to sit in on it, feel free.
It's strictly about billboards?
Yeah.
And I thought we don't allow any billboards in town anymore.
That's
Well, but
correct.
there's a Supreme Court, it's changes that,
Well, and we don't allow billboards, but we did have, we had regulations about billboards that carried over from probably 1940s. And then there was a Fifth Circuit appeal, or there was a case that happened in Austin where one of the multimedia companies, billboard companies, sued saying, if you have to read my sign to know if it's going to be a billboard or not, that's unconstitutional. Because under First Amendment rights, you have to free speech. And so with signs, we can regulate time, place, and manner, where it goes up, when it goes up. and the essentially size. But everything else, you have to really be neutral on that. And the Fifth Court of Appeals said, if you have to read it to determine that it's on premise or off premise, it's obviously unconstitutional. So everybody across the state was then advised, do away with your billboard regulations. And so everybody did. And then the U.S. Supreme Court got involved and said, oh, wait a minute, we're going to rethink this, because what happened, the unintended consequence to the billboard industry who had brought the case initially, is they were disallowed everywhere. And so, by memory, it's a while since I've done billboards, they are 14 feet 6 inches long and 26 feet, 14 feet 6 inches deep, and then 26 feet wide. And so that really is what distinguishes a billboard. Is they're essentially, I think, like 200 or 400 square feet. Nobody else gets a sign that size. Well, when the Fifth Circuit Court said get rid of them, now everybody could do whatever was allowed on premise, typically 30 to 60 feet. So then the billboards complained to the U.S. Supreme Court, and we have different rulings coming out. That's what Ben's going to listen to for an hour in a nutshell. So if y'all want to come in and listen to it, you are welcome to.
While we're talking about state laws and Supreme Court rulings,
Do we know?
When was that?
Do you know when that will be, or
Right
you
now.
haven't?
As soon as we,
Oh, as soon as we finish
Yeah.
this, just like the other one was last time?
while we're talking about some of the rulings that changed, the Texas legislature allowed de-annexation, and over around Taylor, they're having a lot of landowners that are voting to de-annex from the city, and it's causing some excitement. And what they're doing is they're trying to get out from under the city rules and regulations so that they can use the land as they see fit to use it. And Barbara, you can explain a little bit better for me, so.
to sum it up, the legislature hates cities. And for, I know since at least the 1980s, they have been extremely hostile to cities and limiting what we can do for annexation. It used to be that you could annex at will, and then no, you have to have it on a 3-year plan, and then no, now you have to have landowners' consent. So even if people are coming in using all your services, you cannot annex them. And currently, we are not allowed to annex unless requested. So even if we wanted to annex this property right here, that they're going to come in with 12 new lots, if we didn't put our foot down, they wouldn't even have fire protection. So you could have 12 houses on our outskirts just go up in flames. And you can't control whether it's going to be a 30-year-old mobile home, a $400,000 house. We have no say over that. And the legislature has been trying to get cities, really to cripple cities. In the last session, they even tried to say we couldn't set any minimum standards for the size of a water line to serve a development, which means no more fire protection. The size of a street to service a development, so whether you could get, 2 cars side by side or not, it's really ridiculous stuff. So anybody who's of sound mind and can stomach it needs to run for the legislature. And because we've just got lunatics up there that really can't stand cities, and they're not for good governance. So, and
The
it's things like
annexation
this.
effort was,
So the de-annexation is another one. Just
Yeah.
let them pull out. And even if they were in the middle of the city. So, and if you think about it from a city's perspective, are you going to provide water? Are you going to provide sewer? Are you going to provide police protection when they're surrounded? And some cities have said, no, let them burn. And that's the nuclear option, but they chose to come out, and so it's a mess. It's a mess to do that.
So they no longer have to pay city taxes then?
Correct.
yeah.
Yeah.
So what's the new rule? They're allowed to de-annex?
If they meet certain and we've already had some pushes to do that, so
I just want to bring
they're
that to
allowed
y'all.
to do it here?
it's statewide. It's statewide, yeah.
It's state, yeah. It came out in May. This is a new new law came out in May, and Taylor is one of the first to get it because people wanted to de-annex around the, Samsung facility out there.
And then they can do whatever they want. They're gonna be taking advantage of all the city of Taylor facilities, but paying nothing towards it, and then they can do whatever they wanna do. The only two restrictions are SOBs, sexually oriented businesses, and I think perhaps junkyards are the only two restrictions to that.
Trying to bring y'all up to speed because changes are coming and it could come here.
And I think the bar checks would be really good in the state legislature. I think
Oh.
even the Mileses would be really good in the state legislature.
I'm glad I'm too old, boys.
All the age kids, too many kids.
So anybody who wants to come in for the training is welcome to.
Okay, with that being said, 2:15, the meeting of the planning and zoning of Tuesday, December the 5th is now here.
December the what?
Whatever the